Because of some time constraints with one of our speakers, we're going to let Representative Ann Parks speak, and she's got some other appointments to attend to this morning. But I'll give her a couple more minutes to enjoy her breakfast. I would like to play an introductory video for those among you who are not familiar with our great representative here in Greenwood and in McCormick counties.
Because it shows you the importance of one voice. And it's a story about my first trip to Greenwood. I was down here at a legislative banquet when I met Representative Parks. I was sitting next to her and I said, "Ann, I need your endorsement." And she looked at me and she said, "Obama, I will give you my endorsement if you come to my hometown of Greenwood, South Carolina." So, Ann didn't tell me how far away it was, that you couldn't fly in there. So I said, "Okay, I'm coming." She tricked me.
Good morning. Oh, we can do better than that. We're small in numbers, but we loud.
Good morning.
Very, very good. I want to thank you for having me this morning, and I want to thank our chairman for allowing me to go first this morning. I've got to go to work. But, you know, this is an election year. And we always say that this year will be like none other. And none of our election years are the same. Because it is an election year, I don't know how much legislation we're going to get done in Columbia this year because nobody wants to do anything controversial. But we will begin on Tuesday. And as I always tell them, the crazy house will open up. So we will be there Tuesday. There will be, I think the largest thing that's on the forefront is the redistricting, and all of the maps have been drawn. But we still have to vote on it, and it has to be submitted to Washington to be approved. And all of that has to take place before elections start. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the books open in March. For this upcoming year. I want to thank you for allowing me to serve you for the past 23 years. It's been an experience. It's been a ride. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about people. And I think that's the biggest thing when you're in office. You don't realize how much you serve the people. And as I've always said, this is not my seat. This belongs to the residents in District 12. I am just there to represent them, to try to get done what's needed, to try to get done what they want, what people want to get done, but it's not my seat. I've never said that it was my seat. And that's why when election time comes around, I have to have everybody to help me. I can't do it by myself. And to all of those that will be running and this coming up election year, I think it's going to be tough. I think that we're going to have to really get out and knock on some doors and see if we can persuade some people who have not participated to participate. And I think that in some neighborhoods, people don't realize, and it's hard to get through them, but whether you like it or not, the government affects every aspect of your life. You may not like it. A lot of things you can't do anything about. But I think it's imperative that we have people in place that are going to represent you and what your ideals are and what you would like to see happen. And that's why one of my policies is I always have an open door policy. Is there some concern that you have, please let me know. And I try to emphasize I'm only one person. I can't be everywhere all the time, and I rely on people in my district to let me know what's going on, or if it's something that they don't like, or something that they would like to see change, just whatever it is, or if you just want to talk, that's fine. Please contact me. I don't have a lot this morning. I think, as I said, the biggest issues that are coming up, of course, the biggest issue that we have every year is the budget. I think there are some funds coming from the CARES Act that we have to distribute that have not been distributed yet. I'm going to be very interested to see which way they're going to try to come. Will tell you that I am very disappointed that we're going to lose one of our senators in the redistricting. And I don't think people understand the importance of losing that additional senator that we had. We will have him for the next year. But when you have senators, that's why it was such a great loss when we lost Senator Nicholson. We had 2 senators sitting on Senate Finance, which controls all the money in the state. So after this year, we will have nobody for Greenwood sitting in that position. And it's going to be hard, very hard. And I don't think people understand. I know that Senator Gambrell did not have but a small piece of Greenwood. But however, he sits on Senate Finance, and by him having that small part of Greenwood, he could get funding for Greenwood, which would include the entire county. So I truly know that he will be missed. So we need to get what we can this year, because there's no promise for the next. And I don't know whether people understand it or not, but the Senate, the House doesn't necessarily, but the Senate goes by seniority. And you have a better chance of getting some things done if you've got a little seniority in the Senate. Doesn't mean so much in the House. So I'm looking forward to this legislative year. I always tell them it's going to be fun, because it's always interesting to see what some of my counterparts will come up with, or what they will want to see done. Not necessarily that it will get there where they want it to be, but, you know, as all of the representatives that sit in the House have the opportunity to file a bill, doesn't mean that it may not go anywhere. It may not get any further than being read across the desk. But there are some interesting things that come up. I shall never forget this one year somebody filed a bill. They wanted to tax people who had coon dogs. And that made absolutely no sense to me at all. Why are you going to put an additional tax on somebody because they've got a coon dog and they may use him for hunting? but those are the type of things that they come up with. And as I said, I have learned a lot, because sometimes we're sitting there talking about maybe trash that's on the beaches and how it affects the environment. So I don't think there's anything that we haven't talked about. The big issue last year was the abortion bill, which was passed, but it has been held up in court. And I used to get so angry with my seatmate, Representative John McCravey, and I asked him one day, did he think he was God? And I told him, I said, you don't have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body, because when she gets before St. Peter, you can't answer for her. She has to answer for herself. And you can't control that. And I said, whatever decision she makes, that's on her. And you shouldn't be allowed to control that. And however you know it went in one end, went out the other. But I felt a little bit better telling him that. And they've always known how I stand on that. So I'm very glad that it was held up in the courts, because my biggest thing with the abortion bill is that they want to have these children here, but in the same hand, they don't want to do anything for them. In my opinion, they give them a pack of Pampers and send them on their way. They don't want to provide health care. They don't want to provide any type of insurance programs that will help the children, particularly those in need. Only thing they want to say is they want them here. And and what good is it to have them here if they're not able to provide for themselves and the state doesn't provide anything? Because this state has lost a lot of money from the government, particularly in our Medicaid program. And the money that we don't take goes to another state. But that started with Governor Nikki Haley. And their reasoning is that if we start to take the Medicaid supplement, which if we had is a match to what we do, there are so many more things that they could do, so many more programs they could have, so much more medicine that could be provided for those who are not able to get it for themselves. But this state refuses to take it, and the reasoning is that maybe one day the federal government would stop doing the match, and then the state would be stuck with providing everything, which is a poor excuse to me, particularly when you can provide better health care and additional health care for those that are in need, instead of them being left out in the cold. So it's a lot, and I'm not going to take up much of your time, but I just want to thank you for allowing me to speak to you this morning, and I'm going to ask the chairman if he'll let me come back when I can stay up here about 30, 40 minutes.
Anytime, Representative Parks, thank you. If you would stay first, I want to personally thank you for your many years of service to our community, not just as a representative, but also serving families in their direst times of need with your funeral home. And I want to thank you for being able to sit alongside of that legislative delegation you're part of. I don't know how you do it and make it home without having blown up in a rage.
Well, I'll tell you what my purpose is. I sit beside them because they know everything and they don't hold nothing, they tell it. So if I want to keep up with what's going on, I sit there quietly and listen, because they're going to tell you what what's what, and that's why I sit beside him. And besides, his wife packs him a lunch every day, and I help him eat it up.
Do you have a minute or two for questions from?
Yes.
Does anybody have a question here for Representative Parks?
Representative, I was just curious, did the Biden administration repeal the Medicaid expansion exception that the Trump administration approved for South Carolina? I'm just curious. I know that they were starting to review all those.
That I don't know, because, like I said, this state has refused to take the federal match for years since Governor Nikki Haley. I think she is the one that started it, of refusing to take the federal match for Medicaid. So the Medicaid that is in this state is funded by the state with no federal match.
But I thought that Governor McMaster got South Carolina got some kind of a deal where instead of the 67% of income before you qualified, they raised it up to 100% for South Carolina at no cost to South Carolina, and I thought the Biden administration was now, going through that.
Now, is that for the residents of South Carolina that will be able to get Medicaid?
Yeah. Basically, from what I read, that added maybe 100,000 more people to the rolls. But the Biden administration was starting to go through those because most of the states that didn't take the original expansion, state by state, Trump administration was making, was kind of letting them get some of it without kicking in, any more money. So I was just.
I'll have to look into that to see if there's a difference in the state accepting the match that has been offered for years, but since this state doesn't take it, another state gets it.
Thank you, Representative. Any other questions for Representative Parks?
Yeah, and my question is whether or not the lawsuit is taking place as for the redrawing, the redistricting, and if that will delay or bring it back to the table to take another look at that. I know that I think the NAACP and other organizations have filed a lawsuit. I believe that's true.
I think it would depend upon when those lawsuits got to the court.
Pardon me?
It would depend upon when those lawsuits get to the court.
Right.
And I don't, usually when there is a lawsuit pertaining to redistricting, they don't tarry around with it very long because these districts need to be in place by the time we file for a seat.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you for that. But I'm also saying if the lines are drawn that it's not going to benefit the people, then if it delays, let it delay. Because if they're drawn for the purpose of giving power to certain individuals, I'd rather not vote if it's not going to benefit the people. So if we go through a lawsuit, I think we have to step forth, and if it's not going to benefit the people, we ought to go through a lawsuit to try to straighten it out.
In the past when they've had lawsuits, because I remember I went through lawsuit when I first began, some of my counterparts in Greenwood was trying to draw my district and trying to take promised land out of the district. For what reason, I don't understand. But we did go to court, and it's done in federal court, but it was completed by the time and redrawn by the time we got ready for the election. So if they go into court, I should think that they won't tarry about those because it goes through federal court.
Time for one final question.
Representative Parks, to what extent did your district change in the redistricting?
Not very much. My district didn't change very much. I still have all of McCormick County.
Yeah.
And I think I added 2, maybe 3 precincts out of Greenwood. Even though my dear friend John McCraven called me and told me not to take any of his precincts, I took them anyway.
Right.
I was not able to get my black population up, which is at 46%. And the problem that I had is because of the census numbers which we had to go by, they just weren't there. I think I stayed in the map room 2 hours or maybe a little longer, and I just couldn't, they just weren't there. And so I had the option to go into Abbeville County, which I didn't want to do, but if I had to, it would have been fine, because when I first started, I had Saluda, Abbeville, Calhoun Falls, and Greenwood, and McCormick. But, so that's where I am, but my district did not change very much because the precincts that I acquired are in Greenwood County.
Thank you.
All right, a final round of applause for Representative Parks. Thank you for coming out to see us this morning.
You're welcome.